afternoon, whatever time zone you are watching me in. And welcome back to another class. Today we will be looking at cyber resilience and redundancy, right? We're going to be looking at redundancy and resilience. So, all we do the class, we're going to go through each concept. So, let's show you where we at. We're going to be looking at each concepts and then we will be doing the multiple choices as usual. Let's see. Okay, this is where I wanted to get. So what agenda for today is that we're going to be looking at cyber resilience and redundancy. We're going to be looking at high availability, data redundancy, configuring RAID, um, looking at we're going to be looking at capacity planning, powering data center, data backups, continuity of operational plans, redundancy sites consideration, resilience and recovery testing. And then as we look at each concepts, we're going to be doing scenarios as usual, and then we're going to be looking at some multiple choices, okay? So feel free to take a cup of coffee, whatever you need to do as we go through the class, okay? So when we think about redundancy, right, cyber resilience and all of that, we can safely say that we are in a digital landscape that present constant threats, demanding proactive measure to safeguard um, vital systems and data, right? So we are in this huge digital landscape, and this digital landscape that we are in, it's constantly threatened. It's we are constantly having malicious individuals that want to threaten our digital landscape, and because of that, it demands proactive measures to safeguard the vital system and its data, right? So we constantly have to be looking innovative ways to safeguard the digital landscape because of the threats that we constantly facing, and you must understand that. And this presentation will explore the key concepts and strategies, some of which we use to achieve our cyber resilience, right, and redundancy, to ensure that business continue even in the face of disaster, even in the face of disruption, even in the face of you know whatever is happening in our digital landscape. We want to make sure that whatever we are facing, that we have the backbone, that we have the strategy in place to allow our operation to continue even though there's a threat, even though there's a disaster. So we have to put plans in place that will help us to gain that, okay? So when we talk about cyber resilience, right? Cyber resilience or resilience and redundancy, we're talking about resilience is the means of making sure that the system, the data, the service can keep running even when something goes wrong, right? Like a cyber attack, right? And like a hardware failure, like a power outage, like all of those things. So when you're thinking of resilience, you're thinking about even though the system is impacted or affected by something negatively, that the system, the vital areas of the organization will continue to run. Okay? So let's say we said a power outage. So if there was a power outage or a hardware failure, what would we have in place to make sure that if there is a power outage, that the business continue to run? So let's take it in the context of your home. If you have a house and there is power outage, what do you have as a backup just in case the light turned off? You have candles, right? Some people have lamps. Some people have flashlights. So those are backups that you have just in case there's a power outage, right? We have backups. We have today, in today's digital landscape, we have chargers that we can charge our phone with, because we charge it and we keep it aside just in case. And so sometimes we even carry it on a journey with us. So these are measures that we put in place so our business doesn't get disrupted, right? So a lot of company, when they are building their data center, when they are building their businesses, they have to have something that's called backup plans, just in case the business, the computer fail. In case that once computer fail, what do you have as a backup plan? Do you have other laptops that automatically updates and back up periodically? So if the system goes down, if all of the system goes down in this area, then everything is backed up and we can continue business somewhere else. Or if this plant, right, burned down, or this data center burned down, is the system so set up that there's a backup plan? Let's say that there's a hospital, for an example. There's a hospital in operation. That hospital burned down. Can they quickly relocate in another building? Because everything is back up, they have that plan, in place, just in case anything should happen. If Facebook should go down, do they have a backup plan? Do they have all the data backups? Do they have a backup data center to continue the operation so they don't have a huge or long downtime? So we have to make sure that those are in place so we can continue to operate our businesses, right? So redundancy is about having backup system and extra resources in place so that if one part fails, another takes over, right? So in the cybersecurity space, that's why we stress backup system, just in case there was a vulnerability in the system and somebody gain entrance in it and exploit it. Did we have its segmentation? Did we have system in place just in case that whole entire system in one area fail or corrupt? Can we continue business? Or if it goes down, everybody is looking like they don't know what to do because no one had any plan in place. They didn't have any redundancy plan in place. So remember that when we talk about redundancy, we're talking about having backup system, having extra resources in place. So if one system fails, the entire system don't go down, right? So that's what we mean, that you must be able to make sure that the system and service can keep running in the face of disaster, in the face of disruption. You must ensure that, because there are companies that lose millions of dollars because there is no backup, right? So if in the United States, this part of the state that we're in, we get our light from Canada. Does the United States have a backup system just in case they and Canada become enemies and Canada decide that they're going to shut their light off? Is there a backup system? Is there a backup grade? Right? So it's important, even in a cybersecurity world, that as people responsible for um, incident response and other part of the team, that you're making sure that there are resilience, that there are redundancy plans that are in place to carry the operation of the business in spite of what is happening. And I've seen where companies have lost billions of dollars because they didn't have a backup plan. Their data didn't get backup, right? And in today's landscape, when we have cloud and all these things, it should not be so difficult. And even when we have a cloud provider and other means, it should not be a second guess to put things in place for yourself to continue your business just in case there is a failure. Okay? So remember again, resilience is making sure that the system, data, and service can keep running when something goes wrong, like a cyber attack, when there's a hardware failure or a power outage. While redundancy is about having backup system and extra resources in place so that if one part fail, another takes over. It automatically takes over. Okay, so if you ever see a system, a network, a network, right, of system of computers, and we use load balances on this. So if one computer fail, it distribute the information, or you have um segmentation, so it knows the system fails, so it's automatically working. So can you imagine sometimes if there was no load balance on the system, and the system get disrupted or fail, everything will go down. Or if there wasn't any segmentation, everything will get hit in the network. So it's important. And then we have, for those places where we use power, we have to have generators. Okay, we have to have generators that will that will automatically powers on if it's suspect that there is a power outage. So when we look at resilience and we look at redundancy, we're looking at high availability. This is where high availability comes in. It's a concept under resilience, right? High availability. And if you remember clearly with the CIA triad, we talk about availability, we talk about integrity, and we talk about confidentiality. So this is another part, or an up, still ties in availability. So with the availability, we say that the resource should be made available upon request when it is needed. There should not be any huge downtime where the data or the system cannot be used. So high availability is a part of the CIA triad. And in high availability, we ensure that the system, the application, and the data are always accessible with little to no downtime. So remember, we said that resilience having to make sure that the system can run. So when we put all these resilience and redundancy in place, we're saying we want the data, we want the system to be available at all time without any or little downtime as possible. So can you imagine trying to come online to do your work, and then when you realize the website is down, there's no way you can get into the system, right? You cannot get onto class no matter what you try. And for hours this is going on. It means the information, the data, the platform is not available for you to use when you needed to use it. And to have it gone for a whole day or a whole week, that's a whole lot of downtime. So it tells us that the owners are those in charge of operation didn't really have anything in place to prevent all of this. For an example, an online banking service must be available 24/7. If one server fail, another immediately takes over so customer can still access their account. And sometimes you will see this, or sometimes you will see that they said maintenance is going to be from such and such a time. That's kind of different. But you don't want to be trying to get onto your bank app all day, and you can't. You are business dealing with customer need refund, all of that, and you're trying to get on the bank side, and it is just not available. We cannot afford any of that. So we have to make sure that the data are available whenever you need them. High availability, ensuring that the system application, and data are always available with little and no downtime. So you got to think about some of the ways in which companies can make sure that their systems are always available. All right. So because you have the backup, you quickly can log on to another system, right? Because, okay, this whole system is down. Let's quickly log on. Let's quickly use the laptop because everything is backup. And so you can just easily just log into the system and continue the operation as if nothing. I don't know if you have ever been into places where the system, the credit card machine is down and it's just chaotic. Customer have to put back the grocery, put back everything because there is no backup system just in case this should happen. We should always have some system, just like we have candles and we have flashlights and we have generators in our home, just in case the light goes out, right? It's the same thing in the business world. So cyber resilience, we looked at that. We said we don't want the system to fail. And we look at high availability. So we're going to continue looking at high availability, ensuring continuous services provided, right? So we have the active passive, right? Active passive. And in this configuration, one primary server handles all the requests while a secondary server stands by, right? So if the primary server fails, the secondary server automatically takes over, ensuring that the service is running. So that is it with active passive, right? It ensures that you configure the system so that if one area fails, it's automatic another one automatically take over. And when we talk about the active, this system involve multiple active servers, right? Sharing workload and offering increased performance and fault tolerance. If one server fails, the other can handle the traffic without interruption. And it is the same thing with a network of computers, right? With load balance. Sometimes because the load balance distribute the load right across the network, if one computer fail on the load balance, it automatically start to distribute the information evenly to the other computers in the network, right? So that is where really the active passive will come in because it is there. If it goes down, it just start distributing to others. But active, you set it up. It's include multiple server, sharing the workload, offering performance, and increase the performance also. And it is a fault tolerance, meaning that it if it if it picks up that something is off in the network or on the server, it automatically just start porting the loads into other areas, and it knows exactly how to handle those very well, right? So it offers increased performance and fault tolerance, right? And if one server fails, the other can handle the traffic without any interruption. The whole system doesn't fail, it can tolerate it, okay? So when we talk about high availability, this is what we're talking. The system, there got to be um, system in place that will prevent the entire service to fail, right? So we have to make sure that all of those are in place. So let's look at some scenarios right here. So we're looking at an online banking downtime prevention. A major bank experienced a sudden failure in one of its database, okay? With one of its database server due to high traffic. However, customers are still able to access their account without any disruption. And why the customer was able to continue without any disruption, because it's likely that they have an active system in place. Remember, we have active. It's likely that they have this in place, active. They have several systems running at the same time that takes over the load, so no one is even recognizing that something had failed. Okay, so that is what it's about. So we they make sure, this bank makes sure that there are backup systems. So the bank experienced sudden failure in one of its database. So everything should not be so that one database is disrupted because of high traffic and everything fails. Nobody can get on. And they have to send, messages to customer apologizing when they could have just have a backup system. Let's look at another scenario. Black Friday madness avoided. Okay, so this is about a Black Friday. Shopper, so on a Black Friday, the shoppers flood an online store at midnight, and all of them is eager to grab a once a year discount. Just as sales hit the record, just as the sale hit records, hit a record number traffic. Let me move this out of the way. Okay. Okay. So shoppers flood an online store at midnight, all eager to grab once a year discount. Just as sales hit record number, traffic skyrockets right past the website unusual limit. Instead of crashing, the system automatically scale up, adding more cloud server to handle the load. Customer keep shopping and the company makes millions without a single hiccup. So what happened right here is that because so many persons are flooding the system, and it reminds me of TikTok. But even though TikTok didn't have any problem because people was flooding the system, trying to download, and so many persons downloading at the same time and trying to log in at the same time, because it has a high resilience, right? People was able to do it because the back end developers, they make it so that the system wouldn't crash. And it's the same thing with this particular scenarios at this particular shopping place, where everybody was flooding because everybody wants to get that discount, right? Everybody wants a discount on a Black Friday. So it's with people was just flooding the system, and I can imagine it's just like sometimes when there are cheap flights, right? And when there are cheap flights, so many persons trying to get the one flight, thousands, hundreds of people trying to plan their trip, and they see something, even if they're not going immediately, but they just want to know that they have the ticket. The system has to be so that um that it doesn't, even if it fails, it can pick up, right? The system picks up that there's a failure, and it continues, right? Active, it's continuing to perform without any hiccups in the system. So can you imagine, even in the airspace, how many backup systems that they have to have up their resilience, because these people are, especially the persons that works in the tower, control tower, and talking to the planes, they have to have a high resilience, a high availability, because that means the entire plane can go down if there is no one directing. They have to tell them where they at. They have to watch this. I believe they watch the speed at which they go, when to land, telling them they're gonna land now, get the way clear. And it's important because we see when this is not effective, or it can really creates a problem. Okay, so we have to make sure that there are high availability. Another scenario, the lights goes out but not the data, right? A power outage strike the city, plunging corporate centers into darkness. Okay, employee brace for disaster. right? The employee, they were bracing for disaster, but within second, an uninterruptible power supply kicks in, keeping the system running. Minutes later, backup generator roared to life, right? Preventing critical data loss and saving the company from massive financial hits. So in this scenario, the lights goes out, right? There's a huge power outage. This, let's say this is at a data center, but because we have the UPS, which is uninterrupted power supply, this kicks in. And every organization need to have a UPS in their at their facility, right? So just in case anything happens, if the system goes down, it kicks in, right? And keep the system running. So what you don't have is downtime, this huge downtime, and everybody trying to scratch their head because they don't know what step to take or where else to go. Okay, so it kicks in. So it said minutes later, the backup generator kicks in, right? And then what happened is that it prevent critical data loss and save the company a lot of money. And because we constantly have backups, right? There's not a problem because we have our system, we have everything back up on the system, so we don't have any data loss. So the problem would be had we not done the constant backup or the periodical backup or weekly backup or daily backups, they are automatically, the system is just backing up. And wherever you have high level of data that is vital to the institution or to the company, it is important that there are constant cloud backing up going on. So you're not losing data or your whole data system is lost because you didn't do any backups, right? So this corporation was spared because they have a UPS insist at the location that kicks on, our it could be simply the cloud providers, right? It could be simply the cloud providers that have the system, so they have outage, you don't even know. You work in your business and don't know what's going on. So let's look at another one. Airport chaos air prevented. All right. An airline ticketing system mysteriously goes down hundred just as hundred of passengers try to check in. Long lines from long lines form, frustration grows. However, an automated failover system instantly switched to backup um backup database, right, within second. And within second they started printing boarding pass again and flight continue because they had a failover system which automatically kicks in, right? So can you imagine if they didn't have such failover system in place, right? What's the chaos that this could create? People will probably have to go back home because the entire system is down. And the places like hospitals, all of these places have to make sure they have failover system, they have UPS, they have all of these kind of backup system to prevent, because hospital is where lives are. A lot of lives in hospital, and many people need power, they need the data in the system. People in this technological world, we don't use papers anymore. So there has to be some form of backup systems that are in place just in case there's a power outage, just in case there is a, and that's, if I could bring back to you, if you remember the WannaCry cyber attack that took place, and it took the world by surprise. Why? Because there was no backup system. So in the WannaCry, when there was a ransomware and they locked the system, a lot of hospitals and a lot of places were affected. Did they have a backup system? Did they have anything in place? So all of those things teaches us a lesson that when we are building our data center, when we are getting into business and as cyber personnel, you must have all of these things in place. An airport, an airport should have every possible form of system to handle any problems or chaos. Hospitals, data center, banks, all of these places, so that what you don't have is any problems. Okay, so we don't want any issues with the system, so we have to make sure that we put them in place. So let's look at some multiple choice on high availability. What is the primary goal of high availability? Is it A, reduce data storage costs? B, ensuring system remain accessible with minimal downtime? C, implement cybersecurity against phishing attack. And one of the, remember, one of the aim or the goal of high availability is ensuring is to ensuring system remain accessible within minimal downtime. High availability focuses on minimizing downtime and ensuring continuous system operation. So when you're thinking of high availability, you have to always think about it has to do with high availability and and minimizing downtime, ensuring there is continuity of operation. Remember, we look at it around here. We look at it right here. We say that it is good for ensuring system application data are always available with little to no downtime. So that is availability. So that's why we choose that answer, because the data must always be available without any or little downtime. Which of the following best describe load balancing? Right? A process that distribute network traffic across multiple servers to prevent overload. B, security protocol that prevents unauthorized logins. A techniques for compressing a large file to save storage space. A type of encryption used to protect user data. So we will put it for A. So when we talk about load balance, we're talking about load balance is basically there on the system, the network. It's distribute the network traffic across multiple server to prevent overload and all of that. If I was able to draw something, I would have shown you what that looks like. So, okay. So let's say this is a computer, right? And let's say this is another computer. I can draw, and let's say this is another computer, right? And let's say this is the load balance. What it do, it ensure that information is distributed evenly. So this is my load balance. This is my drawing. So what it does, it ensure that information, it sits right here, right? So let's say this is the balance. It ensure that information is distributed to all of these evenly. So, and if this, let's say that this, let me see if I could erase this. Let's say that this system right here, let's use a yellow pen. Let's say this system right here goes down. The load balance will do, it will distribute to here and here. So it knows that particular server, this particular computer is down, so it start distributing to the others. So that is what we call a load balance. It sits on the network, right? So let's say that it is that's my little handwriting. That's the best. I'm not a drawer, so don't laugh after my drawing. I'm just showing you, trying to depict an idea of what a load balancer is. So it sits on the network, right? Somewhere on the network, and it distribute the information. So so this is computer one, computer 2, and computer 3, and it's distributing the information. So if one breaks down, another will picks up. I'm going to try and do a little bit more drawing for demonstration. So the load balance help manages, right, and spikes by distributing workload among multiple servers. So if these are our servers, it distribute the information. It's a even distribution. So one area is not overload than the other, which that can, if that happens, what it can do, it can cause a failure in the system if sometimes there is no load balance. So the purpose of the load balance is to distribute network traffic across multiple servers to prevent overload, right? Load balance helps to manage and spike by distributing works among multiple servers. So let's say, these are the server and the load balance is right here. It is distributing the information evenly across the network. Okay, let's move on to the next question. A global e-commerce company uses multiple data center. Okay, let me bring down this. All right. So a global e-commerce company uses multiple data centers in a different location to ensure their website stays online even if one data center goes offline. What is this strategy called? So they use multiple data centers in different locations to ensure their website stays online even if one data center goes offline. What is this strategy called? Is it data encryption, geographic redundancy, traffic trolling, disaster recovery? So this is basically called geographical redundancy. In the cybersecurity world and in the world of business, especially deal with data center, it is best not to have all of your data center in one location. You must have them in different, and we're going to get to that. It just happens to come up in this multiple choice, but we're going to get to it. It is best to have your data center in different location, far apart. So if one damage, it can picks up into another, and the business continue. So in the geographical redundancy, it involves maintaining multiple data center in different location to prevent downtime. So that's one of it. So you have, let's say that you have one center. Let me do my drawing again. I'm trying to see how much I can draw. Let's say you have one data center here in, let's say, I wanted to make this NY, and then maybe you have one in data center in Brooklyn, and maybe you have another data center in another place, whatever that place is. So we try to put data centers in different location, geographical location, right? So if one area is down, the whole system can have everything at one place. So the entire system is done. I wish I could draw better than that, but I can't, and I ain't going to try. Okay? So that's what that means. I'm sorry. So that's what that means. Okay. If a company experience a server failure, but its website remain operational due to a backup system automatically taking over, what HA solution is being used? And HA stands for high availability, right? Is it A, intrusion detection system, B, failover mechanism, C, firewall security, D, virtual private network? And the answer to this would be B. It's a failover mechanism. A failover system, what it does is ensure that when a primary server fails, a secondary system automatically takes over. So that's what a failover system does. You set it up, it knows when one area fails, and then another just automatically takes over, right? So that's a failover system. It ensures that when a primary server fails, a secondary system automatically takes over. And that's what we want within the business environment, that when a primary system fails, when the primary power source fails, the UPS, the uninterrupted power service, takes over, the generator takes over, right? Which of the following technology helps keep a system running in case of power outage? Is it DDoS protection, load balancer, uninterruptible power supply? Is it a firewall? And we know that the answer is uninterrupted power supply, the UPS. The UPS provide power, temporary power, right? It provides temporary power supply just in case there's an outage, and it prevents sudden shutdown. That's what it does. Prevents sudden shutdown. So if the system realizes that there is a power outage, it automatically kicks in and start to take over. So sometimes, how many times there may be many times that there are power outage, but a lot of people don't know that there is a power outage because they have a system in place that automatically kicks in, that automatically takes over when there are power outage. Do you get that? What is an auto scaling in cloud computing, right? Is it the process of encrypting data before storing it in the cloud? Is it B, automatically adjusting computing resource based on demand? Is it C, manually switching between different cloud provider? D, a security measure to block unauthorized logins? And for this answer, it will be B, because it does, what a auto scaling does is it it automatically adjusts computing resource based on demand, right? And auto scale increase or decrease computing resource based on the traffic and the workload. That's what happened in the cloud computing. So it automatically scaling increase. So if you were to go back to the shopping scenario, and everybody is shopping, because they have an auto scaling system, it will automatically able to increase or decrease based on the traffic that is coming in. So there wouldn't be any crashing of the system because too many persons, because getting on the system, but it automatically sees and knows, or it's configured, so when there's a high increase, that it is able to scale the increase, or and all of that, or decrease the resource. A hospital need constant access to patient record. What HA solution will best prevent downtime? They need constant um, access to patient records. What HA solution will best prevent downtime? A. Regular employee training on cybersecurity threats. B. RAID storage mirroring with a backup database. C. Manually saving patient record and a USB. D. Using a strong password. And we will use RAID. And we're going to be looking at RAID in a bit. RAID storage mirroring with a backup database. So when we talk about the RAID mirroring, it ensures that if one storage system fails, data is still available from the mirrored copy, right? So that's what it does. We have a mirrored copy, and so if one storage system fails, because we have a mirrored copy, we can use that one. Do you understand that concept? So that is very important when we are working in places like hospital, because you need the patient data. It's the same thing with Facebook. It's the same thing with businesses, high tech business, where it's the data are vitals. We have to have all of these strategies in place that will help to prevent downtime. Next question. A company sets up a backup internet service provider to switch to switch to um a company sets up the backup internet system providers service provider to switch in case primary it should be switch in case primary ISP fails. What type of HA solution is it? So the company decided that they're going to have a backup internet provider just in case the primary one fails. They have a backup one. Is it A, cloud redundancy? C, dual internet connection with failover? Is it, that was B. Is it C, data encryption protocol? D, virtual network routing. And the answer to this will be dual internet connection with failover. Can remember we said failover if one, remember what we said about failover, right? We have the scale it, scale up, scale down, and we talk about the failover, right? And we say that failover system ensure that when a primary server fail, a secondary automatically takes over. So that is a failover. So I want you to remember that. So that's what it is talking about right here, right? So a dual internet connection with failover, right? With failover will take over. Having a backup ISP ensure continuous internet, right? Continuous internet service. That's what it provides. Continuous internet service, right? If the main provider is experiencing any issues, so we have to have those, the dual connection failover, right? So just in case the primary one failed, oh, what's gonna happen to my system? Okay, so just in case the primary one fails, there would be a problem. If my system shuts off, I will just pick up back where I've started, but seems as if I'm having some issue here. So it is always important, guys, extremely important. Okay. It's always important that we have backup system. Very much important that we have a backup system in place. So for this part of the lesson, we spoke about redundancies, right? We speak about resilience. And one of the concepts that we talk about is high availability. How important it is that we must have systems in place that will help um, to back up just in case there is a disruption, just in case there is a disaster, just in case there's a cyber attack. We must have system in place that will prevent all of that. I'm waiting for my system to kind of start back up. But I'm sure all of this is making more sense as you learn it, because sometimes you might see, these things are in your workplace, in your work environment, but you probably don't know what it was all about. But it's now today you learn that it's all about backup systems. I can't close my program because this is running. But we will pick up in the next class. I'm going to close this system down and restart. Okay? So remember what that is all about. It's all the best in mind.